At Seoul Station, our MC Fatty was seen clicking a photo of some shoes with his phone. He set it as his profile picture and noted that if it wasn't available there, he would have to go to another station. Right after, his profile updated successfully. A message appeared on his screen. He had seen the starting a new life ending, obtained a skill, and completed all 99 endings. Seeing this, Fatty was overjoyed. He believed he was the only person in Korea to have completed all 99 endings. From across the station, an old lady observed him. She thought how children these days could enjoy so much with just a phone, and questioned why her daughter-in-law was so eager to take away her child's device. As a train passed between them, the old lady lost sight of Fatty. When it cleared, she saw him sitting with a gloomy face. Her thoughts changed, and she began to agree with her daughter-in-law, deciding to take away her grandchild's phone. At that moment, Fatty received a call from his mother. She asked where he was. When he replied, she sternly demanded to know which station he was at, hoping it wasn't a homeless shelter again. His father whispered to her that her own father was also angry this time. Fatty informed them that he was at Seoul Station. Hearing this, his mother became furious. She shouted, frustrated that the college entrance exam was just 2 days away and he was still playing games. She reminded him that even if he didn't study, he should at least come home on time. When Fatty tried to calm her, she shouted that she had endured enough for 6 years. Fatty responded with affection, promising to come home soon, and ended the call. Still enraged, his mother exclaimed that she should be the one to die, claiming she couldn't bear to see him anymore. His father tried to ease the situation by asking if he should send a message offering Fatty a ride. She agreed. Fatty's father then messaged him, asking if he had money for a taxi and if he should come pick him up. Fatty replied that he had enough for the fare. His father warned him that his mother was still furious and had been doing planks for 5 minutes in anger. He told him to come in quietly. Fatty responded with an apology. Fatty then considered turning off the game and heading home. At that moment, another message popped up on his phone. It acknowledged that he had completed 99 life endings and congratulated him, announcing that his true Reset Life would now begin. The narration revealed details about Reset Life, a god-tier game only the most dedicated gamers could access through a hidden route. It was a location-based augmented reality game introduced 6 years before such systems became popular. The game was so difficult that everyone else had given up and even its homepage had been shut down. Fatty reflected on his deep connection with the game. In one storyline, he had begun as a 4-time failed law school applicant and ended as a courtroom prosecutor. In another, he started as a Hongdae street performer and reached #1 on Billboard. The game let him achieve dreams he couldn't in reality. Reset Life had become his life. A new screen appeared, asking him to choose one skill to inherit as a reward. Fatty accepted this happily, deciding on the skill he needed most, but the screen didn't change. Confused, he stared at it. Suddenly, a message appeared. He had obtained the secret skill, Reality Fairy Tale. His 100th life, his real life, was about to begin. Then the story described the skill called National Top Scorer. It stated that success in life depended on 99% talent and only 1% effort. Studying was also considered a talent, and those without it would never succeed no matter how hard they tried. The scene shifted to a quiz setting. A man asked question number 21 about an incident in July 1866 involving an American merchant ship that led to the Shinmyangyo. Among the many present, Fatty answered first. The announcer noted how he always responded as soon as the question was asked and questioned his confidence in his answers. During break time, Fatty sat alone in the washroom, surprised that so many kids were talking to him. He didn't mind the attention and thought this might be the esteem stage in Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. Suddenly, someone burst into the washroom accusing Fatty of being a demon who had taken over his friend's body. Fatty simply asked him to close the door. Outside the washroom, that same boy confronted him about the Reset Life game. While he called it trash, Fatty stood firm, calling it a god-tier game. The boy asked if he had really memorized all the text files needed to obtain the National Top Scorer skill. He found it unbelievable. Fatty confirmed it, saying that getting hit by a signboard and memorizing 50,000 textbook files was how he became a genius. That was the requirement for gaining the National Scorer skill in Reset Life. He described the sensation of being electrocuted as knowledge rushed into his brain, knowledge he couldn't possibly have understood before. Despite the changes in his brain, his passion and determination remained unchanged. He had always given everything for Reset Life and understood that nothing came for free. He had crammed with everything he had, and the feeling after submitting his exam paper was a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction, along with a belief that anything was possible. His friend then asked if Fatty had really changed, or if this was his true self. Fatty, in his mind, felt unsure. The friend remarked that Fatty shone brighter than any version of himself seen in the past 7 years. He promised to cheer him on until the end. Fatty thanked him and reminded him that his team's dance performance was up next. The friend replied that he had prepared a lot for it and invited Fatty to eat together afterward. Pork cutlet first, then Italian, then pizza. As Fatty opened the gate, he saw everyone waiting for him with excitement. One of them asked if he had checked his preliminary SAT scores. Fatty confirmed he had. The person informed him that he might be the only person in the county with a perfect score. Fatty replied casually, saying it wasn't that difficult. The person then asked if his scores were out already. Fatty apologized and explained that his mom didn't believe him anyway, so he didn't expect others to either. His friend suddenly shouted again, accusing him of not being the real Fatty and demanding that whoever was inside his friend's body come out. At night, Fatty's mother felt overjoyed with his academic score. Fatty apologized sincerely, admitting that all he had shown them until now was his obsession with gaming. His father handed him a drink, jokingly acknowledging that if it was that kind of study game, they should have known earlier. He proposed a toast to their genius son's early admission to Korea University. Fatty expressed his gratitude. His father asked what he planned to do until college started, wondering if he would tutor. His mother found the idea great and mentioned that even their distant relatives were desperate to have Fatty tutor their kids. Fatty shared that he was thinking of going on a solo trip for a while. Then, the narration introduced the skill, "Where there's a will, there's a way." It explained that knowledge could be gained through learning, health through exercise, and style by following mannequins. This unique skill could be acquired by placing purified water at midnight, performing 108 bows for 77 days, applying the water to the face, and drinking the rest, performed in front of the wish-granting Buddha statue at the Gwanbong Stone Buddha at Gaibawi. Fatty's friend reacted to the bizarre conditions, saying they were better than getting hit by a signboard. Fatty explained that he had substituted the process by checking in at Bonggunsa Temple in Samseong-dong. He added that he only posed once for a photo doing the 108 bows. In the present, Fatty realized that now that it had become reality, those tricks wouldn't work anymore. He regretted not building stamina first. Bowing turned out to be more difficult than expected, and the hike had already drained his energy. Yet, he decided not to give up. Fatty recalled a past moment when someone called him Aniodwe and asked to borrow gym clothes. His friend asked about the nickname, and Fatty explained it was a mix of glasses, acne, and pig. His friend jokingly compared him to a flatfish pressed by a hydraulic press and asked for a photo. Fatty, surprised by his selfie camera, made his friend laugh. Reflecting on it now, Fatty admitted he was genuinely shocked then. Looking into a mirror without fog was scary. It showed his disliked self more clearly. He wished to be reborn with clear skin and a body that didn't gain weight, like Jaejun's. But crying, he realized he didn't want to be born again. He wanted to remain his parents' son, whom he deeply loved. He remembered a moment when his mother handed him money, reminding him it was the day for his temple stay. He said he already had enough, but she insisted. She reflected on the years when his father, after getting promoted and relocating from the countryside, rarely came home. She had been too focused on supporting his father and ended up neglecting Fatty. That's why she let him immerse himself in games, thinking that if they earned well, he wouldn't go hungry. She believed that in this one life, at least he could enjoy gaming and stay healthy. She thanked him for growing up well and expressed her love. Back in the present, standing before the Buddha statue, Fatty made a heartfelt promise to return as a son his parents could be proud of. Finally, on the 77th day, the Venerable approached and called him by his real name, Jinho, asking if he was ready to descend the mountain. Now transformed into a handsome and confident version of himself, Jinho smiled and expressed his gratitude as he prepared to leave. At Incheon Airport, a crowd of fans grew excited upon spotting some celebrities. Security guards were doing their best to manage the situation. Just then, one guard received a call through his earphones and asked what was going on. The person on the other end asked if it was the departure area and whether any members had been separated from their fans. The guard confirmed that no one had been separated. The caller expressed confusion, wondering if those people were actually just ordinary individuals. At that moment, a man approached the guard and questioned how someone could mistake a celebrity for an ordinary person, even with sunglasses on. The guard apologized, admitting his misunderstanding. The man brushed it off, saying it was all right. Overhearing this exchange, two girls whispered to each other, noting that they had assumed those guys were rookie actors due to their striking looks. Then, Jinho appeared, walking while talking to his friend on a call. His friend demanded to know where he was, calling him a traitor. Jinho replied that the so-called traitor was currently heading toward the gathering spot. The friend gave him one last chance, warning him not to peel a tangerine, comparing him to an unscratched lottery ticket with rare potential. He reminded Jinho that he had been receiving all the photos. The narration returned to the skill, "Where there's a will, there's a way," emphasizing that it wasn't a skill that changed one's appearance after 77 days. It explained that even if someone started from the depths of mud, with relentless effort to rise to the surface, they could bloom like a lotus and flaunt their brilliance. On board the plane, a flight attendant approached Jinho asking if he needed anything. Jinho politely declined, inwardly impressed by the kind service of Korea's flagship airline. Another attendant offered him a towel, noticing his cough. He thanked her. A third one handed him a water bottle, asking if he was thirsty. He replied that he had already had something to drink. Jinho began to feel overwhelmed. Inside the bottle, he discovered a love note. He thought to himself how the power of good looks was truly astonishing. The number of notes he had received now exceeded the contacts in his phone. Realizing he was now both academically capable and handsome, he believed he could make many friends. Upon arriving in Milan, Italy, Jinho entered his room and collapsed on the bed. He was shocked that no one had spoken to him. He had missed an important detail. Every member of the Challenge Big Bell language study program was a top student, capable of competing till the end. Their confidence, built through relentless studying, was far stronger than that of ordinary students. To them, Jinho appeared as a disruptive force in their environment. He figured that if he showed off his Italian skills, they would eventually come to him for help. But this backfired too, creating an unintentional second blow. It was a simple rule of human relationships, but for Jinho, who had just stepped away from a game-addicted life, it all felt too confusing. That night, he cried while lying in bed, hoping he wouldn't remain alone for the entire 2-week program. The next day, Jinho sat alone at a restaurant. He hadn't slept well and decided to have breakfast early. He believed food wouldn't taste good when eaten alone. But as he began eating, he was surprised by how delicious it was. He wondered about the jam's flavor, realizing it was something he had never tasted in Korea. His gaze shifted to a man sitting nearby. He reminded himself not to feel down, especially after traveling so far. He now saw himself as a stylish guy enjoying coffee in Milan, the fashion capital. Taking a sip, he winced at the taste. The coffee was extremely bitter. He thought he might have ordered the wrong thing, but the receipt clearly said coffee. In Italy, café meant espresso. Just then, a woman behind him asked whether the owner had explained that earlier. Jinho lit up with joy and admitted he didn't know, thinking he should have researched beforehand. He also noticed how pretty she was. The woman commented on his fluent speech, noting that even the owner likely assumed he was a local. She said his expressions were so natural, she couldn't resist talking to him. She then asked if he was a model or actor. Jinho told her he was just a student, about to start university. The woman wondered how much of his talent was going to waste. Jinho complimented her beauty in return. She handed him her card and told him he needed to be more confident. Thanking him for the compliment, she kissed him on the cheek. As she walked away, she told Jinho to call her if he was interested. She advised him to carry himself with more pride, saying that if she had seen how he looked without glasses earlier, she would have kissed him on the lips instead of the cheek. With that, she left. Feeling delighted, Jinho thought to himself how unbelievable it was to be approached by such a bold and beautiful woman. He knew this wasn't the time to get lost in thoughts and quickly decided to save her number. Looking at the card, he realized it had been a street casting after all. Just then, he began to exclaim that the food was spicy. At that moment, another woman approached and asked what was spicy. Recognizing her, Jinho responded with surprise and addressed her as Aunt Seungmi. She reminded him to call her Nuna and mentioned that she had worked until dawn and was still tired, warning him not to provoke her. Seungmi was introduced as a Challenge Big Bell writer and the study abroad program's language supervisor. Jinho pointed out that despite her tiredness, she had woken up early, saying it would be a waste to sleep while in Italy. Seungmi noted that he, too, had woken up early, as most others were likely still asleep. Jinho laughed and explained that he was too excited to sleep. Then a thought crossed his mind. The worry he had yesterday might be something Seungmi could help solve. He told her he had a concern. Seungmi asked what it was. Before he could explain, a man arrived and placed food on their table, surprising them both. Jinho reacted to the generous spread, calling it the power of an adult's wealth, and referred to it as the result of a reset life skill, like the tale of the country mouse and the city mouse. Seungmi disagreed and questioned what he meant by reset life. She suspected their order had come out wrong and asked him to inform the owner. Jinho agreed and walked over to the man, politely pointing out that his companion hadn't ordered so much food. The man assured him it wasn't a mistake. Jinho, surprised, questioned why the food was brought out that way. A suspicion formed in his mind. Perhaps this was a tourist scam where extra food was served to overcharge those unfamiliar with the local language. The man smiled and explained that he simply wanted Jinho's jewel-like eyes to shine in his cafe a little longer and asked him to repeat that message. Hearing this, Seungmi looked at him and asked what he had just said. She then teasingly questioned whether she should really tell him. Seungmi thanked the shop owner sincerely. Jinho then turned to her, wondering if she wasn't bothered. When she asked why, he explained that she had just received random flirtation. Seungmi didn't mind, calling it innocent kindness. Even if it wasn't, she found it rather pleasant. She then pointed out that Jinho should be more concerned, having been hit on by a beautiful woman first thing in the morning. Jinho was surprised she had seen that. Watching him, Seungmi thought to herself how rare a person he was, someone who could have the whole world but still remained so innocent. She decided to share some advice with him from her experience as a TV writer, even if she wasn't a head writer yet. She asked what he thought was the most important element in broadcasting. Jinho guessed it was pretty celebrities, good cameras, and proper lighting, visuals that could captivate people and boost views or ratings. Seungmi acknowledged his answer, then questioned whether visuals were the true secret behind Challenge Big Bell's ratings. She explained that broadcast itself was a combination of broad and cast. If someone had caught attention and had something to say, they should throw out their message. She compared it to the beautiful woman earlier, who used her appearance to grab Jinho's attention before giving him her business card. The cafe owner had done the same, catching her eye with service before expressing his thoughts. Of course, she noted, things don't always go well. A gift like flowers, if unwelcome, could create awkwardness. Jinho agreed. She reminded him that the act of expressing was what mattered most. Just conveying the message was enough. Meanwhile, inside a bus, a girl sat reading a book, struggling with pronunciation. She wondered how she was supposed to pronounce certain words, finding the system so different from English that she couldn't figure it out. Someone then approached her. A moment earlier, Jinho had shared another concern with Seungmi. What if it wasn't the flowers, but he himself that people didn't like? Sungmi advised against hanging out with those who disliked him, calling it pointless and disrespectful to both sides. Returning to the present, Jinho offered help to the girl sitting in the bus. It was now day 4 of the language study abroad. Inside the bus, 2 boys sat looking visibly troubled. One of them longed to eat cold rice with ramen, while the other craved kimchi stew. Suddenly, one pointed at a church outside and joked about praying for kimchi stew. He then added that since they were in Italy, maybe they should pray in Italian. At that moment, they spotted Jinho approaching. The red-haired boy acknowledged that Jinho must be struggling. Jinho responded with a plea for help. Reflecting back, Jinho realized that Sungmi's advice had been successful. It had awakened his dormant confidence and courage. Girls began gathering around him, eagerly asking for pictures. They grew obsessed with him, which sparked jealousy among the boys. Strangely enough, this situation ended up bringing Jinho closer to the guys than the girls. Jinho admitted that he was starting to fear visiting new tourist spots. One of the boys commented that handsome people naturally became walking photo machines, or life in cuts. He jokingly added that being moderately good-looking was probably the best. Jinho added that even moderation needed to be done in moderation. Suddenly, Jinho started running away from them, prompting the 2 boys to chase after him. Some girls nearby, watching the scene unfold, wondered aloud what was going on with the boys. Just then, Jinho abruptly stopped. He felt something strange, like the discomfort of wearing ill-fitting clothes. He realized that if he didn't keep his back straight, it would remain uncomfortable. Curious, he approached 2 girls and asked if they had uploaded the pictures they had taken with him on social media. One of the girls happily confirmed they had. Jinho asked how many likes the post had received. The girl replied that it had just crossed 10,000 likes. Jinho then understood what the strange feeling was. It was the reawakening of reset life. He realized it wasn't dead yet. As expected, all the gaming experts played this game, a being born solely for modeling, a natural talent that had gone unrecognized. That was true skill. He felt amazed by his own potential, proud of being the best. He never thought he could continue gaining new skills. He began to wonder if it was possible to max out all his stats to 99. He considered whether there might be any side effects, but the excitement was overwhelming. It felt like receiving CBT rewards, followed by OBT rewards, and now even attendance rewards all in succession. He found it awesome. Soon, Jinho noticed a large crowd gathering nearby. Curious, he wondered if a fight had broken out. He moved closer and discovered it was actually a model photo shoot taking place. One man on the phone instructed someone to take their model away since the shoot had ended earlier than planned. The writer, visibly angry, declared that they wouldn't work with that agency again. At that moment, Jinho received a message on his phone asking what was going on. He replied via text that a model shoot was in progress and that the professional world was absolutely thrilling. Back on set, someone asked the writer if they should reshoot the next day. Then, the writer's eyes landed on Jinho. A big smile spread across their face, and they declared that God must love them. Without hesitation, the writer demanded that they bring the Asian boy over immediately, by any means necessary. A new skill called I'm the hottest thing is introduced. It explains that a person's peak isn't when they're working hard, showing off their knowledge, or spending money. It's when all eyes are on them. Some people are simply meant to be in the spotlight. Then, a model named Leonardo appears, visibly angry. He's frustrated that someone else has been chosen instead of him. The writer looks at the new model, Jinho, and doubts his ability. To him, Jinho seems like a complete amateur, someone who hasn't even done full makeup before. Despite his good looks, the writer knows that real professionals can sense true presence instantly, even in a crowd. Jinho has that aura. Jinho informs the writer that he has received the supervisor's permission for the shoot. The writer acknowledges it but questions whether Jinho is a true professional model. Jinho openly admits he doesn't have experience. Still, he believes that, in terms of skill, he qualifies as a professional. He's just not famous yet and doesn't belong to an agency. As the shoot begins, Leonardo is stunned. Jinho performs with impressive professionalism, surprising even the writer. Watching from the side, Leonardo realizes the truth. Just by observing the shoot, he can already picture the final photo spread. He imagines readers stopping to admire it. Jinho looks incredibly cool. Leonardo had intended to criticize the shoot, but now he clearly sees the difference in their levels. The next morning, Jinho is seen taking a shower. Afterward, he looks at himself in the mirror, smiling. The language study trip had been full of new experiences. He even participated in a photo shoot and made many friends. But for him, the best part was buying gifts for his parents for the first time. He notices his mom wearing a scarf and asks about it. She proudly says she wants to show off the gift her son bought. His dad is even more enthusiastic, though he doesn't say it aloud. Later at a gas station, a worker spots a new watch on Jinho's dad's wrist. He asks about it. Jinho's dad replies with pride. It's just a watch their son bought using the money he earned from modeling in Italy. The worker jokes, wondering if their gas station could get into modeling too. Back home, Jinho's mom brings up Aunt Jinsuk. Jinho responds that of course he knows her. In his mind, he remembers her as the annoying lady who always looked down on him and his mom. His mom, full of anger, reveals that Aunt Jinsuk wants Jinho to tutor her child. She's so frustrated that the cup in her hand begins to crack from her grip. Jinho says he could do it but doesn't want to burden Aunt Jinsuk with tutoring fees. He realizes his mom wanted to refuse as revenge but couldn't find a solid excuse. Then his mom suggests Aunt Mi-young. Jinho remembers her fondly. She's almost the only one who supports both him and his mom. She's also the generous mom's friend who gives him a lot of allowance. He clarifies that he's not being biased. The allowance he's received from Aunt Mi-young isn't exactly a small amount. His mom laughs, satisfied with his answer. Jinho reflects on everything. Studying well has allowed him to be this filial. He feels genuinely glad to have the national top student skill. Before leaving, his mom asks if he's sure he doesn't want her to come with him. She also notices that he's wearing the suit from Italy. Jinho confirms that it's the one Jejun insisted he wear to the entrance ceremony. She finds it amusing, noting that things are different from when she was young. Jinho says goodbye and heads out, promising to call if he's going to be late. As he walks, people start noticing him. They whisper among themselves, surprised that he's the only one wearing a suit. They can't believe he's a freshman. After all, who wears a suit to a college entrance ceremony? Then Jinho receives a text from Jejun. It reveals that the suit suggestion was a joke. Jinho is furious. In his mind, he swears to get back at Jejun. Two students are seen frustrated, wondering where Jinho is. He hasn't arrived yet, despite being the one assigned to give the freshman representative entrance pledge. They begin to panic as the ceremony is about to start. One urges the other to contact Jinho quickly. The second student responds that he doesn't even have Jinho's number. This angers the first one, who questions how the class president could not know it. The second student fires back, frustrated too. He reminds the other that Jinho didn't attend orientation and doesn't use social media. Not only is he late, but he was also supposed to read the entrance pledge. He sarcastically adds that Jinho is probably walking through the main gate, sipping an iced Americano. He warns that once Jinho arrives, they'll deal with him. Meanwhile, two girls are chatting, and one of them shows the other a picture of Jinho on her phone. The second girl is amazed that his handsomeness is noticeable even with his face partially covered. They both wonder if someone like him could really be one of their juniors. Just then, Jinho appears near them and politely asks if they are seniors from the business administration department. Seeing him up close, the girls get flustered. One shyly admits she isn't a senior. Jinho introduces himself as the one in charge of the entrance pledge and apologizes for being late. Suddenly, one of the boys yells at Jinho for being late. He scolds him for not respecting the scheduled time. But the moment Jinho flashes his glamorous smile, the boy instantly calms down. Jinho then begins his entrance speech. As the proud freshman representative of Korea University, he solemnly pledges under a lofty and upright spirit to devote himself completely to academic pursuits. One of the boys, watching from a distance, realizes that this is the rumored freshman Jinho. He admits that Jinho is even better than expected and says he likes him a lot. Another student overhears and asks if he really likes Jinho that much. The first one confirms with enthusiasm that he definitely does. The scene then rewinds to 10 minutes earlier. That same student had been observing Jinho and thinking to himself, a perfect CSAT score paired with a face like that? The suit alone must cost thousands. He recalls hearing about a chaebol heir who once wore a tailcoat to the opening party and wonders if Jinho might be one too. Since Jinho's face isn't publicly known, he assumes he might not be the official heir. Still, the thought of scolding someone like that scares him. He decides it's better to let things slide. Back in the present, Jinho sincerely apologizes to the student for not contacting him and missing orientation. He explains that the language study trip felt like a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and he completely forgot. He regrets not finding the senior's contact information in advance. The student reassures him that orientation isn't mandatory and that they're not old-fashioned seniors. He asks why Jinho brought it up. Jinho replies that he heard them talking about him loudly earlier. The student then apologizes and asks about the unusual outfit Jinho is wearing. This question startles Jinho. He panics at the thought of becoming a loner in college too. Then, an idea strikes him. He tells them he has an interview shoot scheduled for Korea Tomorrow magazine, right after the entrance ceremony. Hearing this, the student is stunned. Korea. Tomorrow is the country's first university magazine and highly sought after by successful Korea University students. But with a face like Jinho's and a perfect CSAT score, it makes sense. The school must be eager to promote him. Jinho continues. As soon as he received the offer, he started thinking deeply about how to make readers associate his pictorial with Korea University's business administration department. That became his main concern. Internally, Jinho wonders if his smooth talking is due to the national top scorer skill. He goes on to explain that among all the intelligent students at Korea University, the business administration department is said to have the most elite. So he questioned what kind of clothing would suit such a department. The answer was obvious. Only a suit could reflect that image without embarrassment. As he finishes his explanation, Jinho realizes it might have been too much. He should have just admitted that a friend tricked him. Moved by Jinho's explanation, the student warmly puts a hand on his shoulder and tells him to call him Hyung from now on. Later, the same student is seen sharing the story with the girls. He praises Jinho, saying that if only all juniors were like him. He laments how kids these days lack school spirit. Inside a shopping mall, Jinho meets Jejun. Jejun laughs, teasing Jinho by repeating his own words about a suit being the only outfit that wouldn't disgrace the business administration department. Jinho, clearly annoyed, demands the card reader and jokes about swiping it across Jejun's head. Jaejun chuckles and expresses disbelief that Jinho actually fell for his advice. He asks how Jinho managed to keep his shoes on during the flight, then inquires about the photo shoot from the previous day. Jinho recalls the shoot. The writer had encouraged him with praise, telling him the feeling was perfect and asking for one final shot. Just then, another staff member had approached, informing the writer that it was time to interview Jinho for the spot shoot. Returning to the present, Jinho tells Jaejun that the shoot went well. He also mentions that a senior gave him something afterward. Jaejun curiously looks at the thick stack of papers in Jinho's hand and asks about it. Jinho explains that it's a printout containing information about professors, their tendencies, majors, electives, class content, clubs, and more. He adds that he's considering changing his course registration to guitar playing. Jaejun asks him why. With excitement, Jinho describes his dream. Every young person in Korea, he says, should experience wearing jeans, slinging a guitar over their shoulder, and traveling the country. He imagines sitting on the campus lawn during free periods, pulling out a guitar, and cracking open a can of beer. To him, it sounds like the perfect lifestyle. Jaejun, amused, admits that Jinho's description gives off a certain vibe. Suddenly, Jaejun sprays something on Jinho and jokes that his taste has become terribly outdated. He tells Jinho to leave his friend's body, calling him a ghost from the 80s. Jinho sniffs the spray and says it smells nice. He defends himself, asking if Jaejun doesn't have any family members from the 80s, accusing him of being disrespectful. Jaejun picks up on the word disrespectful and agrees, saying that Jinho's fashion is exactly that. He criticizes Jinho for wearing a white t-shirt under a red coat. Jinho defends his style by saying that red is cool and white is clean. In response, Jaejun smacks him on the head and says that if he were Jinho's mother, he'd cry every time he saw his child dressed like that. He admits he wants to cry right now. At that moment, a woman approaches, furious with Jaejun. She scolds him for goofing off and reminds him that she's paying him double. She also reveals that the outfit Jinho is wearing was bought by his mother. Realizing this, Jaejun sarcastically comments that no wonder it has such an avant-garde style. Jinho tells him to shut up. The scene shifts to the office of the chief designer of French CL. One man is yelling furiously, asking why someone is leaving for Korea. He's shocked, especially with Paris Fashion Week just around the corner. He accuses the other person of losing his mind and questions what's wrong with him. They had just gotten through a slump and were finally able to relax. Now he wonders how long it will take to find an unknown Asian model. Calmly, the second man responds with a smile. That's exactly why he's going to Korea himself, to the country where his muse is. 1 week earlier, Mr. Tim had been lost in thought about a certain man. Jolie, observing him, commented that Mr. Tim had finally gone mad. Given that their head director had been stuck in an unfamiliar creative slump for over a month, it seemed understandable. Jolie wondered if this was truly the end. Tim, after sipping coffee, quietly admitted to himself that he was done for. No matter how much coffee he drank, inspiration wouldn't come. There was once a time when just the scent of coffee from that shop could ignite his creativity. Now, it had become nothing more than a stimulant to keep him awake. In moments like this, he envied Mr. Lockerbelt. He recalled a past conversation with Lockerbelt, where he had asked if the coffee tasted that good. Lockerbelt had responded enthusiastically, saying that just imagining the muse who drank it inspired him to sketch immediately. Tim had smiled, joking that Lockerbelt had finally resorted to drugs. Still, he had judged that kind of inspiration as vulgar and reminded himself not to become a designer like that. But now, in the present, Tim found himself crying, admitting how jealous he felt. He wanted a muse too. Suddenly, he overheard some people talking behind him. One woman expressed surprise that a brand had used an Asian model, saying the suit looked very comfortable. Another suggested buying one for her husband. As Tim got up to leave, he thought about how fashion held the power to make others want to wear what they saw. Just then, he caught a glimpse of the magazine in the women's hands and froze in shock. Back in the present, a colleague greeted Tim, saying he was just about to see him, but Tim cut him off, saying that could wait. He instructed the man to compile a list of all Asian male models featured in the latest magazine by tomorrow. He wanted to stay focused and didn't want anyone disturbing him. The man started getting angry, but a woman beside him stepped in. She reminded him that this wasn't the first time Tim had behaved like this. Everyone knew that once Tim showed that childlike spark in his eyes, there was no stopping him. That night, Tim excitedly sketched a drawing of a model. Smiling, he declared that this was it, the inspiration that poured out like a torrent just from the thought. He was determined to find his muse. The next day, Jinho spoke with his aunt, pointing out how she used to nag him about crossing his legs, and now Aunt Myung was sitting with her legs crossed. She laughed and said that once someone crossed 40 and a half, they could live however they wanted. Jinho protested, saying she looked way too young to be in her 40s. She teased him, asking if he was buttering her up just because she was the biggest shareholder. Jinho thought to himself that he wasn't overdoing it. Aunt Mi-young was the one who always praised him more than anyone and helped him hold on to his remaining pride. His aunt then remarked that she had always said he'd become more handsome if he lost weight. Jinho agreed that it had really happened. She handed him a gift, saying it was for her son's school entrance. Jinho thanked her but then asked if he could exchange the bouquet for a different gift. When she asked why, he said it felt like he'd received something too good. She then asked if her son had suddenly developed an interest in fashion, wondering how he managed to pick such a good bag. Jinho replied that he didn't know much about bags but had seen the brand's logo many times. His aunt explained that the bag wasn't a fake. Though she joked about buying it for 5,000 won at the market, she confirmed it was genuine. She talked about how brand names held fascinating value. They used to guarantee product quality, but now, just a logo could raise a product's price dramatically. To her, it was like King Midas's touch. Jinho agreed, though he wondered why she was telling him this story now. She said it was strange how she was only now seeing that same Midas-like value in him. Despite his weight gain, she could still recognize her son's potential, and she regretted not seeing it sooner. She suggested that Jinho drop out of school and come work at her company. She noted that it was rare these days to find someone with both his looks and status. She worried that another company might snatch him up. Jinho brushed it off, saying it hadn't even been that long since the entrance ceremony. He suggested they focus on Ji-young's tutoring consultation. He thought to himself that there was no way his aunt could know about his reset life. He brought up the subject of English and confirmed that the goal was to score in the 70s. His aunt explained that her daughter had never scored above the 20s in English. Jinho asked if she had ever hired a tutor before. She said she had, but none lasted more than a month. Ji-young never did her homework, rarely listened, and failed to keep time. As a result, the tutors gave up first. Over time, she had become arrogant, relying on her aunt's background. Jinho reminded her that Ji-young had once been a sweet kid who played Pokemon until 6th grade. In his thoughts, he wondered if puberty had hit her without him noticing. He told his aunt to trust him and promised to show her the skills of someone who had scored perfectly on the college entrance exam. His aunt said she felt reassured and would rely only on him. She then brought up the tutoring fee. Jinho responded that if she paid him too much, he wouldn't be able to face her again. Later, at their home, Ji-young's mother asked a servant where her daughter was. The servant replied that she was in her room. She knocked on the door, asking if Ji-young was asleep. Inside, Ji-young was on her phone. She casually informed her mother that she had canceled the English tutoring for today and that it would start next week. She said they should try hard this time. Her mother told her that her new teacher would be Jinho, the older brother who used to visit often. Hearing this, Ji-young was shocked. As her mother walked away, she wondered what kind of mother she really was. Just then, Ji-young opened the door and asked if it was true. Would she really get to see Bear Bro next week? On a pleasant Saturday, inside Dongdaemun Mall, Jinho and Jaejun walk through the bustling fashion market. Jaejun complains about spending a beautiful day roaming around with a guy, clearly unamused. But Jinho reminds him that he has the best eye for clothes and insists on his help, claiming that's what friends are for. When Jaejun asks what this is really about, Jinho promises to buy him anything he wants to eat within a 30,000 won limit. Jaejun sarcastically calls it friendship love, then curiously asks why Jinho suddenly wants to change his style. Jinho mentions that a lot has happened lately and shows him something on his phone. Jaejun is surprised to see Jinho featured on social media, confirming it's really him. Jinho admits he only installed the app yesterday and had no idea he'd become a fashion disaster icon online. He knew people secretly took his pictures, but never expected this kind of fame. Ironically, it helped him make new friends in his department. Jaejun questions why they're in Dongdaemun, known for cheap brands. Jinho confidently replies that anything looks like luxury when he wears it. Jaejun laughs, finding his arrogance amusing. Privately, Jinho reflects on his aunt's words. He believes this might be the perfect chance to return a favor from 3 years ago, to Hyung Deokjae. Meanwhile, Deokjae receives a phone call from an employee who informs him he's quitting. Deokjae is shocked, especially since the new spring line just launched. But the man explains that he hasn't been paid in 3 months and is struggling too. After the call ends, Deokjae sinks into despair. He wonders why failure seems to follow him despite his best efforts. Surrounded by others chasing the same dream, he's done everything he could. In fashion, he believes he's second to none. He even took out loans, hired attractive fitting models, and paid brokers to boost his shopping mall's ranking. Still, he's left broke, unable to pay salaries or even buy clothes for tomorrow. He feels defeated and thinks 3 years in this industry is already a long survival. Some are meant to succeed, others aren't. That's just reality. He stares at a person wearing terrible fashion only found in Dongmyo and compares it to his own dying store. But just then, he notices that strange fashion disaster is walking straight toward his shop. The story flashes back to 3 years ago. Deokjae tells Jinho that selling clothes isn't easy. Jinho responds with a firm yes. Deokjae hands him a cold drink, praises his effort, and promises to make him a manager when he opens a second store. Jinho then asks Deokjae to film him working using a particular app. Deokjae assumes he wants to review the footage later at home. Jinho silently reflects on his career path, impressed by his own dedication. Deokjae finds him admirable, though he's confused about the app Reset Life, mistaking it for a photo app. Despite the misunderstanding, he sees Jinho as a kind and determined young boy. Back in the present, Deokjae sees Jinho and recalls how the boy who used to visit so regularly suddenly disappeared. He realizes it's the same Jinho. Jinho apologizes for leaving without saying goodbye and asks if he can look at some clothes. Deokjae welcomes him warmly and shows him the latest arrivals. Jinho asks Jaejun for his opinion. Jaejun says the outfit looks great. Jinho feels that white canvas shoes would complete the look and asks Deokjae if he has a pair. Deokjae quickly goes to get them. Jinho changes into the new outfit and proudly asks how he looks, believing it resembles a luxury brand on him. Jaejun, although slightly annoyed, admits that Jinho looks great and recalls the reason Jinho once did a model photo shoot. Hearing this, Deokjae starts thinking that this might be his last chance. Deokjae then asks Jinho for a favor. He wants Jinho to be his fitting model. With folded hands, he pleads, saying even 30 minutes would be enough. Jinho remembers the help he received 3 years ago and agrees without hesitation. Deokjae thanks him sincerely. Deokjae insists on paying him before he changes his mind. Jinho refuses, saying it isn't necessary. But Deokjae is adamant about settling the payment properly. He opens his wallet, only to reveal it's nearly empty. Both of them are surprised. Tears welling up, Deokjae declares that he would even borrow money just to pay him. Later, Jinho and Jaejun are seen walking away with many clothes. Jinho feels he received too much, even if they were at a cheap price. Jaejun reminds him that the clothes were going to be donated to an orphanage if not taken. Jinho then questions Jaejun's dramatic look. Jaejun jokes about dressing like a rich lady who just cleared out a department store. Still, he complains that Jinho came to shop and ended up making money. Jinho says he has felt the same way toward Jaejun for the past 7 years. Jaejun asks why. Jinho recalls how, in elementary school, Jaejun always received special treatment, like an extra scoop of ice cream just for being handsome. He reminds him about getting a free drink at a barbecue restaurant, too. Jaejun, clueless, says he thought he was just lucky and met kind owners. Jinho is irritated by how Jaejun thinks. Jaejun responds that Jinho has been receiving such treatment like it's natural since birth. This frustrates Jinho even more. Changing the topic, Jaejun says talking about food makes him hungry and asks Jinho to buy him a meal. Jinho, annoyed, asks if all he heard was ice cream and cola. Suddenly, a girl calls out from behind. She recognizes Jinho and expresses surprise at seeing him after so long. Jinho and Jaejun turn around. Jaejun silently questions her boldness. The girl introduces herself as Bora, reminding them she was in the same middle school class. This is the same Bora who once rejected Jinho's proposal by calling him fatty. Jinho recognized Bora immediately and acknowledged her presence. Bora smiled, confirming she knew he would remember. Curious, Jinho asked how she recognized him, and she explained that he was now famous on social media as that common neighborhood guy. Jinho silently reflected on the irony. Now that he was attractive and popular, she wanted to reconnect. He remembered how she had spread hurtful rumors after his confession, and then moved away, unable to face the consequences. Trying to strike up a connection, Bora suggested they grab a coffee, calling their encounter fate. Jinho politely declined, citing that he was busy. Bora quickly followed up, asking to exchange phone numbers. Jinho refused again, stating that she should already understand why and wished her well before walking away. Jaejun, watching the scene, questioned why Jinho even bothered being polite. Jinho replied that she was, after all, a classmate from middle school. After the rejection, Bora became visibly angry. She mocked Jinho for walking around with a girl doing errands, claiming he thought he was some prince. In her frustration, she declared that his good looks were only temporary. Meanwhile, Jaejun mentioned his empty stomach and insisted they go to the ball quickly. In a playful gesture, Jinho climbed onto Jaejun's shoulders and they ran off together. Later that evening in a restaurant, Jaejun commented on how coldly Jinho had treated Bora and how cool he looked doing it. He wondered why Jinho hadn't done it sooner. Jinho confessed that if Bora had simply apologized back then, he might have actually gone for coffee with her. He admitted he still felt somewhat empty inside. Jaejun teased that it wasn't emotional emptiness, but just hunger. Jinho agreed, realizing it was true. Remembering the money Deokjae had given him, he decided they should eat as much as they wanted. An hour later, the bill came to 140,000 won. Jinho pointed out that Jaejun alone had eaten 4 servings. On the street, a woman stared at a strange display and wondered if it was another bizarre cult scheme, questioning whether people actually believed in it or were just wasting money. Suddenly, Jinho approached her and confidently gave her fashion advice, suggesting a hairstyle that would suit her better. Delighted, the woman agreed. As Jinho walked away, he realized it was the 5th time that day he had commented on a stranger's fashion. Promoting Deokjae's store had unlocked a new skill. To activate it, he had needed to gain 1,000 likes on social media and read 10 fashion magazines at the salon. His heightened fashion sense had become overwhelming. He felt an urge to criticize everyone's outfits. Trying to calm down, he reminded himself not to act like this with seniors, especially since it was club application day. He needed to stay composed. Knocking on the door of the club office, Jinho entered and found a man sleeping inside. The man, half asleep, recognized Jinho and asked what was wrong. Jinho explained he was there for a club application form. The man suddenly snapped to attention, excitedly placing the form in front of him and asking which club he wanted to join. When Jinho said tennis, the man called it an excellent choice. Jinho wondered why he had become so enthusiastic. Taking a photo of the form, the man explained that many professors had their eyes on Jinho after his magazine shoot. The dean had been particularly impressed, and now professors were subtly competing to get him into their clubs. Jinho asked what kind of competition it was. The man elaborated that professors had been pestering him, hoping to recruit Jinho, and that he had been considering how to bring Jinho into his own club. Luckily, Jinho had walked in himself. Jinho recalled that professors often served as club advisors. The man urged him to contact him later and warned about pressure from professors whose clubs were not selected. In business administration class, one professor told Jinho that he would discover the joys of golf in the next semester. In economics class, another said he had accidentally drawn a hiking trail while sketching a graph and suggested Jinho consider hiking. In the cafeteria, a teacher guessed that Jinho had the face of a soccer enthusiast. Jinho relayed all these encounters to the club manager, who commented that the pressure Jinho faced was more stressful than playing a dating sim for the first time. Handing over a tennis racket, he told Jinho that it was sponsored by alumni seniors and welcomed him to the tennis club. On the tennis court, students were already practicing. The manager explained that scoring a point with an untouchable serve was called an ace. When Jinho asked about the terms, the manager assured him he'd learn everything with experience. Just then, a student called out to Youngjae, surprised that he had brought Jinho. Another student was amazed, referring to Jinho as someone with top grades. Watching Jinho play, they were shocked. His gameplay was extremely poor, far below expectations. While collecting tennis balls, Jinho reflected on his poor performance. He had only ever held a racket during a performance assessment, and though his sunbais cheered him on, his skills clearly lagged behind. He contemplated unlocking the skill Tennis Crown Prince to instantly surpass everyone. The first condition, holding a tennis racket, was already met. The second condition required 100 rallies, which depended on how generous the opponent played. He realized he could unlock it faster by taking shortcuts, but something about that felt wrong. At that moment, Youngjae approached, breaking his train of thought. Startled, Jinho quickly apologized and admitted he had scored 0 in his performance assessment. He confessed he felt like a burden to the club due to his lack of skill. Youngjae laughed and reminded him that club activities weren't about skill, but about enjoying the experience. He noted that young people nowadays were overly obsessed with competition and feared falling behind. However, those who enjoyed themselves often became the best. He offered to rally with Jinho, who then realized how his anxiety had almost made him lose sight of what truly mattered. Later, Jinho arrived at his aunt's house. The housekeeper greeted him, mistaking him for the new English tutor. She informed him Miss Ji-young would be arriving soon and offered him a drink. Jinho chose a soft drink and thought about how successful Aunt Mi-young had become. He hadn't expected her to have a housekeeper. Ji-young returned from school and asked about her teddy bear. The housekeeper pointed her toward her tutor. Upon seeing Jinho, Ji-young accused him of being her mother's secret boyfriend, recognizing him from her mother's phone wallpaper. She assumed he had stolen the tutoring job from her favorite tutor, Teddy Bear Appa, by using his looks. Upset, she stormed off, saying she wouldn't participate in tutoring anymore since her mother broke her promise first. In response, Jinho called her Pink Pig and scolded her for being so rude. This triggered an old memory for Ji-young. She remembered calling Jinho Piggy and asking him to play with her. Her mother had once apologized to Jinho's mom, who had responded kindly, saying that a healthy child was all a parent could ask for. At that time, Jinho had promised to play after unlocking a skill, but Ji-young had angrily snatched his phone and thrown it outside, demanding attention. Furious, Jinho punished her and scolded her for tossing his phone. She tearfully called him a beggar and told him to buy a new one. Their mothers watched the chaos, with Ji-young's mom remarking that Jinho was fixing her daughter's attitude for them. Returning to the present, Jinho commented that there was no fat left on Ji-young now, so she didn't make the same sound anymore. Confused, Ji-young asked if he really was Teddy Bear Appa. Jinho confirmed it, realizing she hadn't noticed his weight loss, which meant she hadn't been in touch with Aunt Mi-young. He understood why his aunt had looked concerned. Ji-young already had no friends, and cutting herself off from family would be devastating. Jinho told Ji-young to lower her hands and mentioned that Aunt Mi-young had told him about her rude behavior. Ji-young snapped, telling him to stay out of it, but Jinho, now serious, emphasized that he was there to help, not scold. He acknowledged how hard things must be for her, with Aunt Mi-young becoming busier and rarely being around, even on weekends. He assured her that he'd visit every week. The housekeeper, observing this, was amazed at how quickly Jinho had turned the rebellious Ji-young into a gentle, obedient girl. She later updated Ji-young's mother on what happened. Shocked, Ji-young's mom asked if her daughter really behaved that well. The housekeeper confirmed it and mentioned that Ji-young started reviewing her lessons immediately after Jinho left. She added that although he was teaching her basic conversations, it seemed to be working. Ji-young's mom reassured her, knowing that Jinho was the top intern at Korea University. She thanked the housekeeper and told her to rest. After the call, Ji-young's mom thought about her daughter and regretted not calling Jinho much sooner. Jinho was seen practicing tennis, lost in thoughts about the Tennis Crown Prince skill. He was also shown writing something down, analyzing Ji-young's learning. She knew many advanced words and responded well to easy questions. Her problem wasn't intelligence. It was the lingering effect of having lost motivation for too long. He recalled the tutoring session from the previous day. Ji-young had asked how much her mother was paying for tutoring and claimed she could slack off. According to her, her mother didn't care about her results. Whether she scored well or not, the reaction remained the same. If she did well, her mother simply said, "Good job," and handed her money to go out with friends. In response, Jinho reminded her of the days she used to visit his home, always eating organic food. Ji-young had no idea why. He explained that Aunt Mi-young personally prepared those meals due to Ji-young's health issues. Shocked by this revelation, Ji-young listened as Jinho continued, revealing that her mother had even rearranged their refrigerator to accommodate her needs. He emphasized that Aunt Myung wasn't one to openly show affection and warned Ji-young not to talk about slacking off again just because she could score at least 70 points. Back in the present, Jinho reflected that no matter how sincerely he explained Aunt Myung's feelings, it would only sound like pleading. This problem needed something deeper, understanding Ji-young's feelings and helping to fill the emotional gaps within her heart. At that moment, Jinho received a message about a friendly tennis match. He got ready and arrived at the ground, where Youngjae teased him for skipping class. Jinho replied that it was cancelled. The crowd was larger than usual, and Youngjae joked that they probably came just to see Jinho, calling him a rare combination of top ranks and good looks. Then, a student confronted Youngjae, asking if he had run away again. Youngjae brushed it off with an excuse, but the guy mocked it as a typical business administration reason. Jinho remarked that the rumors of rivalry between business and economics seemed to be true. The guy took offense, thinking Jinho was acting superior just because he ranked first. When Jinho confirmed that he was second place, Youngjae interrupted, telling them to stop bickering and get their rackets. The opposing team proposed settling things differently this time. They suggested a match between each department's second-ranked freshman. Although Jinho was just a beginner, they claimed their own second-place freshman was also new and had natural talent. Youngjae told Jinho not to worry, as no one expected him to win. He just had to entertain the seniors. Jinho welcomed the opportunity to test his newly acquired skills. As he shook hands with his opponent, the guy commented on Jinho's looks and doubted his abilities, suggesting that his top ranking was just luck. Jinho smiled, recalling his chubby past, and wasn't bothered. The match began with a toss, and Jinho offered the first serve. Without warning, the opponent smashed the ball toward him. Jinho responded just in time but failed to return the next shot. Youngjae protested the unsignaled serve, but the opponent's teammate shrugged it off. The opponent mocked Jinho, saying he must not know about serve and dash tactics. Jinho clarified he just wasn't expecting it on the first serve. As the match progressed, Jinho observed his opponent's hostility and questioned the reason behind it. He doubted that losing first place was enough to justify such behavior and briefly considered whether it was psychological warfare, only to dismiss the thought as giving him too much credit. Eventually, Jinho managed to score a point. Youngjae cheered as the ball landed perfectly on the baseline, tying the score. But the opponent called it out, citing self-judgment since the ball landed on his side. Jinho accepted the judgment, acknowledging his inexperience. Youngjae challenged the call, asking others for their opinion. The fashion department students admitted they weren't paying attention to the play. They were too busy admiring Jinho's proportions. Another student joked about using him as a mannequin. Annoyed, Youngjae told them all to get lost. 40 minutes later, the score stood at 40-0, frustrating Youngjae. He complained loudly about the unfair play. The opposing student replied that without an umpire, each player could call the shots on their side. Youngjae shouted back, calling it obvious dirty play. Jinho bounced the ball, reflecting on the situation. Just as the economics senior had said, this was a beginner match, and having fun was the only thing that mattered. He never intended to seriously compete against such a rude player. He had only tolerated the foul play to test his new skills. Now the technique he planned to use next was ideal for dealing with someone this unsportsmanlike. Jinho was drinking water when Youngjae approached him, amazed by his earlier performance. He asked how Jinho managed such a circus act and whether he was truly a beginner. Jinho replied, reminding him that the economics department senior had already mentioned it. Being bad at studying didn't mean you couldn't twirl a pen. Youngjae noted that Jinho's form seemed unusually professional today. With a smile, Jinho teased him, wondering if his teachings had finally made an impact. Youngjae grinned and agreed. As they conversed, one of their opponents, annoyed by Youngjae's admiration for Jinho, told his teammate to ensure they won. His teammate agreed, and the match began. Jinho's opponent tried to taunt him, suggesting that he should just give up now. Although he had lost by luck earlier, he claimed his tennis skills were far superior. Jinho, however, wasn't impressed. He remarked that his opponent wasn't an amateur, and it was embarrassing to defeat an ordinary person like him. The opponent, smug, replied that such opinions were for losers. He compared the match to a Hollywood action scene, claiming that people often criticized such play as unsportsmanlike. But the truth was, they were only upset because they feared their team might lose. In the winner-takes-all society, it was clever to use any means necessary. Jinho countered, commenting on how people assumed everyone thought like them. If you played games with that mindset, you'd eventually get bored. This wasn't professional sports, it was just a hobby, a chance to have fun even if it meant imitating manga techniques. The game continued, with Jinho's opponent thinking the ball was fast, but still manageable. He believed he could hit it with his eyes closed after it bounced. However, when he tried, he missed. Surprised, he thought the ball had teleported. Youngjae clarified that the ball had actually bounced in the opposite direction after hitting the ground. His opponent's teammate, impressed by Jinho's serve, mentioned that it was called the American twist serve. The opponent thought to himself that if he hadn't dodged the ball in time, it would have hit him. Jinho, noticing his hesitation, approached and challenged him, asking if he was trying to perform a Hollywood stunt. He urged him to get up and reminded him that the match wasn't over yet. Suddenly, someone rushed toward Jinho, causing him to flinch. The audience, surprised by the interruption, quickly recognized the figure. It was Tim Jones, the head designer of CL Om. Tim greeted Jinho with enthusiasm, asking him to show his left cheek as well. One of the students, on a video call with their professor, showed Tim to the camera, referring to him as a renowned figure only to clothing majors but a pot-bellied pervert to others. The professor, still on the call, excitedly urged them to zoom in and record Tim's pores. Youngjae, clearly irritated, shouted at everyone to leave, frustrated by the interruption to Jinho's game. He clarified that Tim's belly fat wasn't what people thought. It was a design pouch. And then he yelled for everyone to get out, expressing his displeasure with the whole situation. Tim, undeterred, apologized to Jinho for the interruption, explaining that after watching him defeat the villain and strike a perfect pose, he couldn't resist. He revealed that he had come because he wanted Jinho to wear his clothes. Handing him his design book, Tim excitedly showed off his work. Jinho, intrigued, agreed to take a look. As soon as he saw the designs, he was blown away. In his mind, he marveled at how perfect the clothes were, noting that since gaining his new skills, he had never been 100% satisfied with any fashion until now. Jinho was fascinated by how the clothes were both elegant and practical, admitting that if he could ever wear something like that, it would be the mark of a truly successful life. However, he quickly apologized, feeling embarrassed by his own reaction. Just then, Jinho's aunt arrived and remarked that even though the language might be different, true feelings could still be conveyed, just as he was moved by the clothes. Jinho, surprised, turned to see his aunt greeting Tim warmly, with both of them embracing. Jinho's aunt explained that the greeting was meant to mimic a kiss without actually touching lips. Jinho was confused, wondering if Tim had actually kissed him. Tim, unfazed, commented that he liked women, which led him to believe that he and Jinho had much in common. Curious, Jinho asked his aunt what had brought her there. She explained that she had come to hang out with her son. Jinho, feeling the pressure of his schedule, pointed out that he still had classes to attend. Jinho told his aunt that she was the vice president of CL Korea. She confirmed it and explained how Tim had been searching for him everywhere. Since Jinho wasn't an official model, all Tim knew was his appearance and that he was Asian. Jinho asked how Tim had managed to find him. His aunt revealed that Tim had recognized him in the background of her screen during a video conference. She asked if he wasn't grateful. Jinho simply requested her to change her background image. When she asked why, he avoided the reason and suggested that if she was going out, she should take Ji-young along. His aunt refused immediately. Jinho reminded her that even though it was difficult for her to be around Ji-young, she should try spending more time with her. Still, she declined. When Jinho asked why, she replied that minors weren't allowed in clubs, questioning whether she should bring her to such a place. Jinho regretted his suggestion. Later, after Jinho shared everything with her, his aunt realized the reason behind Ji-young's behavior. She called herself a failure as a mother. Jinho assured her that if she started trying now, she could still become an 80-point mom and promised to help her. She said she was counting on him. Meanwhile, Jinho admired the club's glamorous and shiny atmosphere. A girl smiled at him, making him blush. He wondered how so many beautiful people existed in the world whom he had never seen before. His aunt smiled at his reaction and asked if he thought those people were ordinary civilians. When Jinho guessed they might be models, she confirmed that most were either celebrities or models. They had probably followed Tim Jones to Korea after hearing he was visiting. She explained that even though they appeared to be dancing happily, they were actually trying to catch the attention of Tim or CL. Jinho realized it was self-promotion disguised as coincidence. His aunt praised how quickly he caught on. He said that to deliver a message, one had to catch people's eyes first. She agreed, but added that it was pointless since Tim's muse was their own son. Jinho expressed that he was developing trauma from the word lover because of her. She then asked if he really didn't want to pursue modeling. Jinho clarified that he didn't want to sign with an agency. She interpreted that as not wanting affiliation, but being open to offers. She told a nearby man that Jinho should at least walk in Seoul Fashion Week, or maybe even Paris Fashion Week. Jinho responded that if she had shown half that devotion to Ji-young, she wouldn't have turned out this way. She again called herself a failure. Jinho told her to first change her phone's background to a picture of Ji-young. His aunt then encouraged Jinho to enjoy himself and said she'd keep everything from Jinhee a secret. Director Joe interrupted, saying he didn't trust people who gossiped on the phone about his late-night bathroom visits. The aunt joked that if she told Jinhee, she'd buy Director Joe a foreign car. He was shocked, and she reminded him that the vice president of CL didn't joke about money. She told him to go have fun without worries. He threatened to sue her if she didn't keep her promise and claimed he'd take over as vice president in the meantime. When she stared at him, he asked if it wasn't funny. She told him his serious tone made his jokes scary. Back in the club, Jinho looked around and someone accidentally bumped into him, causing him to stumble into a girl. He apologized, but the girl complimented his looks and asked if he was an exclusive model for CL. She invited him to dance and eat with them afterward. In the washroom, Tim encouraged Jinho to enjoy himself. Jinho explained that those people came for CL, not for him personally. While he appreciated it, he felt he should leave before causing trouble. Tim admired his instincts and self-control. Jinho asked him to stop, saying it wasn't the right place for such praise. Tim asked where he planned to go. Jinho said they should experience true Korean nightlife. They then enjoyed samso together, followed by karaoke, where they sang songs. Afterward, they ate chicken and drank beer, then returned to karaoke and finally ended their night with chocolate bomb lattes. Tim said he had really enjoyed the day, especially the beer and chicken combination. He promised to treat Jinho well the next time he visited Tim's country. Jinho asked where he was from, and Tim answered that he was from England. Jinho then asked what Tim wanted in exchange for the outfit, expressing doubt that he would come all this way for nothing. Tim finally confessed that he wanted Jinho to walk in his fashion show. He wanted to show the world what a true muse was. However, he also didn't want to share his muse with other designers. Jinho clarified that he would be Tim's muse only to inspire his designs, not appear on a public runway. Tim didn't like that either. He wanted to brag to other designers about having a muse like Jinho, but he also didn't want to share him. Jinho thought to himself that Tim was just like a child. Jinho showed Tim his phone and pointed out a message on the screen. It was a traffic exceeded notification from a home shopping site, the same one selling the clothes he was currently wearing. He explained that he learned about it through his connection with the CEO. Since evening, the site had been flooded with product inquiries using the keyword Korea University Jinho. That was also when Jinho and Tim had started their outing together. Jinho reasoned that if this much attention came just from them going out, it would explode if he wore Tim's designs, especially in today's globally connected social media world. He believed it was better to reveal things openly than to let them spread uncontrollably. Besides, he felt guilty wearing such high-quality clothes for free. Tim appreciated Jinho's honesty and admitted he would think more about the matter. Then he revealed something important. He was returning to France in 3 days. When Jinho asked about his next visit, Tim said there was one planned, but it would take a long time. So he asked for a favor. Once the clothes were finished, no matter how long it took, he wanted Jinho to promise he'd come and wear them. Jinho agreed and shook hands, promising to come right away when called. In his mind, Jinho thought that Tim was no ordinary eccentric. Suddenly, a giant screen flashed the face of Ciel's CEO, Pietro Battari, surprising Jinho. Pietro praised Jinho and said he now understood why Tim had rushed to Korea. He suggested Jinho should become a Ciel model immediately. Tim quickly corrected him. Jinho was his muse. Pietro, however, emphasized the company's sales, to which Tim replied that in that case, other brands like X Vuitton should also get a share. Pietro turned to Jinho and thanked him for becoming Tim's muse. He admitted Tim had always been a wandering spirit and hoped this connection would help him settle. While such free-spirited artists were adored by the public, they were difficult business partners. Tim reminded Pietro that when given time, he always delivered massive profits. As a token of appreciation, Pietro offered Jinho a bribe. Ciel would sponsor him for the next 3 years. Everything would be provided, from clothes and socks to unreleased items, and even a hairstylist if needed. All Jinho had to do was wear the premium items chosen for him. Tim teased that Pietro seemed desperate to keep his muse. Pietro responded that they couldn't let talent slip away to other brands. But Jinho politely declined the offer, shocking Tim. Pietro asked why, wondering if Jinho didn't understand what he was turning down or if he preferred another brand. Jinho clarified that neither was the case. He thought to himself that luxury brands were great and sponsorships were even better, especially because they were free. But the best thing was the new life he had started after that day. If wearing luxury meant restricting that freedom, he didn't want it. He believed beautiful and stylish things should be worn and displayed regardless of whether they were from Ciel. Pietro acknowledged that Tim had indeed found a true muse. He apologized if his words had caused offense, admitting he may have mistaken Jinho for someone who'd do anything just to wear Ciel. Jinho replied that he may have overreacted too. Pietro appreciated Jinho's politeness even more and revealed that he had already instructed Ciel Korea to let Jinho take whatever he wanted. It was a gift, not a sponsorship, and he could share it with his family, neighbors, and acquaintances. Jinho was surprised, but Pietro insisted. Even CEOs, Jinho realized, liked to joke around. They were human too. Later, Jinho arrived at a Ciel shop where his aunt encouraged him to take everything. As Jinho browsed through the clothes, his aunt casually commented that Pietro wouldn't mind if they took items worth just 3 million won. Then she called Jinhee, excitedly telling her to come to the office and enjoy the perks of having a successful son with luxury bags. Jinho, feeling hesitant, asked if it was really okay. His aunt reassured him that Pietro had told them to take everything. When Jinho said he felt bad because he hadn't done anything yet, his aunt explained that he was about to contribute massively to Ciel sales for the next 3 years. Even $1 trillion in sales would be minor compared to what Jinho would bring in. These few clothes were nothing in comparison. Jinho was stunned by this realization. His aunt reminded him that just by existing, he was now Ciel's treasure and needed to take care of himself. Jinho agreed and asked if there was anything he could do for Ciel. His aunt told him not to feel indebted, but Jinho said he now had the confidence that he would succeed. Watching him, his aunt wondered when he had grown up so much. She then invited him to come along, saying she had several things she wanted to suggest, and there was no backing out. Jinho smiled, already expecting that response. Finally, a scene showed Jinho's father looking at his mother and reminiscing about their past, remembering the difficult days they had once gone through together. The scene begins with a flashback. Jinho's mother expresses her frustration to her husband, questioning why life is so difficult. She recalls never living lazily, always working hard yet still struggling with rent and Jean's loans. She wonders if there will ever be a day when a torn garbage bag won't feel like a crisis. Jinho's father reflects silently, blaming himself. He remembers the day he proposed to her, confessing that his siblings had to sacrifice because of him being the eldest. He had vowed to repay that debt by supporting them until they secured decent jobs. Despite being an imperfect man, he had asked her to marry him. He thinks about how she wasn't someone meant for a hard life, yet she still chose him. Returning to the present, he looks at her smiling face and, moved to tears, silently thanks their son. Later, inside a restaurant, Jinho's father drinks with his son and admits that Jinho's mother suffered a lot because of him, especially not being able to buy that bag. Jinho mentions that those bags usually cost around 5 million won each. His father asks if he's really okay with that, and Jinho affirms that he is and has also agreed to help out with some work. At that moment, two girls approach Jinho, recognizing him as the handsome Korea University guy from social media. They ask for a picture, saying they've been fans since his ordinary neighborhood oppa days and used to admire his unique fashion. As they leave, they comment on how handsome his father is too. Curious, Jinho's father asks about the Korea University nickname. Jinho explains that it's a title he got online and that he's somewhat popular among girls. His father beams with pride and assures Jinho not to worry about marriage, promising a luxurious life for his future daughter-in-law with a house, car, and gold rings, even if it means taking out loans. 3 days later, on Tim Jones's departure day, Jinho sees him off. Tim thanks him for the past few days, and Jinho replies that it was an honor to help. Tim expresses hope that they'll meet again in France, with the CEO also looking forward to a dinner with Jinho. Jinho promises to visit if given the chance. Tim departs, teasing that he'll return with even better clothes next time. After he leaves, Jinho checks his phone and, with a smirk, notes that they'll see who surprises whom. The scene shifts to Myung's house. Jinho's aunt looks at her phone and comments on how unpredictable life is. She just became vice president, and now her nephew is stepping into the spotlight. Ji-young notices a wallpaper on her mom's phone featuring her baby photo and thinks she's much prettier now, wondering why her mom still uses that old picture. Elsewhere, Professor Young Myungjin walks down the street, lost in thought. Once a successful guitarist, he now finds himself washed up. His course reviews were recently trashed and his mental state shattered, leading to 2 weeks of canceled classes. He fears that if his course is canceled again, his professor contract will be terminated. He accepts that he is to blame, having given out low grades while preaching about the absence of romance in students' work. He understands that popularity fades, trends change, and new generations take over. Older generations don't vanish, but on campus, it's the young who dominate. He compares his complaints to asking for traditional tea at a trendy cafe. It doesn't fit. He worries that without a practical music major, he's not competitive, and returning to the music scene against younger talents would be difficult. Back in class, a girl asks Jinho why he chose this course, knowing its reputation for strict grading. Jinho admits, a bit embarrassed, that his friend once told him he smelled like an old man, which sparked a romantic notion. Playing guitar on campus grass like in the old days. Just then, Professor Myungjin enters the class and is stunned by the turnout. It's revealed that after Jinho's schedule leaked on the school community, course registrations spiked by nearly 1,000%. The professor, reminded of his old glory days, is overwhelmed and moved to tears, feeling like he's dreaming. Jinho is seen sitting in a car, strumming a guitar. The man seated beside him notices the instrument and asks if it's a recent purchase. Jinho explains that the professor gave it to him as a thank you gift for saving his class from cancellation, mentioning that it was the same guitar the professor once used during his prime. The man grows curious and asks for the professor's name. Jinho, smiling, replies that it's Myungjin and asks if the man knows him. The man recognizes the name, recalling that although the professor wasn't super famous, he had a strong reputation among certain music circles. He jokes that if Jinho ever needs money, he should get the professor's autograph on the guitar and sell it on Apple Market. It could fetch a good price. Jinho is visibly surprised. The man appreciates how well Jinho takes jokes, adding that most other vice presidents are either boring or intimidating. Jinho replies that it depends on who the joke is aimed at. The man then shifts the topic and asks if Jinho is nervous about today's photo shoot. Jinho admits he has done a few shoots before. The man stresses that this one is different, explaining that the photo shoot is for X, the most prestigious fashion magazine in the world. He reminds Jinho that CL's pride is tied to its members, and today, that pride rests on his shoulders. The ex-staff members are anxiously waiting for him. Meanwhile, in another location, a woman expresses her skepticism about putting an amateur model on the magazine cover. She believes CL must be past its prime. Another man comments that Jinho isn't even a real model, just an ordinary guy. He admits he once swore to only photograph his own family. A third person chimes in, saying that if it's CL, Jinho must be more than just a regular person. The woman mentions hearing a rumor that the new vice president of CL Korea is the son of the previous vice president's friend. The man concludes that CL Korea might be finished. Back in the car, the man warns Jinho that being labeled unlikable, inexperienced, and connected through nepotism puts a lot at stake. If this first impression goes wrong, it won't just be Jinho's image that suffers, it could damage the reputation of CL Korea, the very company that promoted him. Soon after, Jinho arrives at the shoot. His appearance stuns everyone present. Calmly and professionally, Jinho introduces himself and expresses his eagerness to work with the team. After the shoot, the 3 earlier skeptics are asked how it went. The middle one admits that Jinho may be a regular person, but his skills are exceptional. The woman simply calls him the best. The third says Jinho had a natural human charm. The woman then adds that he possesses a mysterious appeal, both professionally and personally. The middleman hopes for another chance to work with him in the future. When asked if they should now enter Jinho's dressing room and speak to him, all three quickly decline. They explain that Jinho is currently engaged in something far more important than the photo shoot. Jinho is then shown in his dressing room, practicing the guitar. He feels thankful that he can use this quiet moment for practice. He reflects on how mastering the guitar might help him unlock the rooftop star skill before the MT. The conditions to unlock the skill are shown. Receiving a guitar as a gift, listening to 30 songs 10 times each, and then perfectly playing each song 10 times. Jinho notes the difficulty. Achieving this is as tough as becoming a national top scorer. Mastering one song takes at least 10 practice sessions, meaning around 300 plays. If each song lasts 3 minutes, that's about 15 hours of total practice. Thankfully, the professor's training helped him progress quickly. Using every spare moment, he has now reached the final song. However, tendinitis has begun to take its toll. His hand aches too much to continue. He acknowledges that overuse wears down both body and mind. Elsewhere, Seola is seen visibly frustrated, saying that she wants to quit. A flashback to 3 years ago reveals a conversation about an article written on her. One person criticizes the article's unfair portrayal of someone with a pure singer-songwriter image. Another remarks that the article did attract attention. Sola, smiling while eating noodles, brushes it off and says this is how all singer-songwriters begin. In her thoughts, Seola reflects on her past confidence. She believed that once her album was released, people would hear her songs and recognize her as a pure, soulful artist. But both her first and second albums had completely failed. She is then advised to try a dance track for her third album, despite her dislike for the genre. The third album performs remarkably well, leading to a magazine interview, and her CEO is hopeful for further success. But internally, Seola confesses that she had secretly wished the third album would also flop. The idea of gaining popularity by performing shallow lyrics in revealing outfits felt deeply unsettling. It clashed with the identity she wanted for herself. Later, Seola enters the bathroom, needing a moment alone. A man on the phone with the CEO explains that she's likely feeling down. Her entire pride revolved around composing and guitar playing. Being forced into a pop image must have wounded that pride. He notes that she's been in the bathroom for a long time. Suddenly, Seola hears someone playing the guitar. Curious and surprised, she follows the sound and discovers Jinho playing in one of the rooms. Jinho, startled to see her, stops. Tears fill Seola's eyes and she asks him to continue. Jinho resumes playing and Seola sits down to listen. As she does, she realizes that her pain has faded. A man is seen rushing and speaking on the phone, informing someone that Seola went to the bathroom 20 minutes ago and hasn't returned. The CEO on the other end expresses concern and tells him to find her quickly, asking if she's okay. The man brushes it off, saying not to say such unlucky things, but admits that Seola had a bad feeling that day. At that moment, the sound of a guitar catches his attention from one of the rooms. Inside, Seola is captivated by Jinho's guitar playing. Jinho, silently impressed, thinks that Seola sings really well. Seola then asks if he is there for a new song interview too and wonders which agency he belongs to. Jinho calmly responds that he is just an ordinary person. Seola is surprised by this and repeats his words. Jinho explains that he's simply practicing for the MT talent show happening the next day and that he hasn't even been playing guitar for a full week yet, which is why he's putting in extra effort. Seola is shocked at his level of skill, especially knowing he's only been practicing for a week. She reflects on how she keeps complaining about being unrecognized, while someone this gifted simply works hard. Feeling a little shy, Seola admits that she's just a rookie, still in her third year. The man enters the room, scolding her for not carrying her phone even when going to the bathroom, mentioning that both he and the CEO were worried. He notices Jinho and, taken aback, asks if Jinho would be interested in becoming a celebrity. Jinho simply declines. Later, outside the room, the man stands with Seola, frustrated, and says that his plan didn't work. Seola curiously asks who that person is that he's so desperate to recruit. The man describes Jinho as the kid every agency in Korea is after, someone who refuses to sign with any of them. He's young, handsome, intelligent, truly the blue chip of this era. When Seola questions how smart he really is, the man reveals that Jinho got into Korea University as the national top scorer through regular admission. Seola is left thinking that she truly was a rookie in every sense. The man then asks Seola if something happened, noticing a change in her lately. Seola responds that something good happened. She then tells him that after today's shoot, she wants to re-record her third album. Surprised, he tells her not to push herself. But Seola reassures him that she's fine now and feels like returning to her ambitious trainee days. Encouraged, the man tells her the interview is about to start and that her cheerful personality is perfect for it. He asks her to shine brightly on camera. Seola agrees enthusiastically and adds that she wants to shoot the music video they talked about earlier. The man reminds her that she previously said she hated the idea because of the short, childish outfit. Seola responds with a smile, saying that as a trainee, she doesn't have the luxury to choose between hot or cold water. The scene shifts to the business administration MT day. Everyone is on the bus applying makeup. Jinho observes someone diligently putting on makeup and comments that he didn't expect that. Youngjae remarks that sending sponsored products is clearly a way to promote through the fame of Korea University's business administration department. He adds that they should flaunt how well they're using it to show their spirit. Internally, Youngjae enjoys imagining how annoyed the economics students would be. He decides to start using lip balm and only use the bathroom in the economics building from now on. Youngjae then asks Jinho if he's ready for the team talent show. Jinho confidently says he's all set to impress. After arriving at the location, Youngjae announces through the mic that it's dinner time for the freshman crowd. During dinner preparations, things go wrong and cause a bit of chaos. A panicked student exclaims that their team is doomed and suggests mooching off Jinho's team instead. Luckily, they manage to get a fire started, and the group thanks Jinho. Youngjae, expecting things to go wrong, reveals that they had prepared tons of ramen just in case. He jokes that no Korean can fail at cooking ramen. However, no one responds to his comments. In the end, everyone fills up on ramen out of charity. On stage, Youngjae addresses the crowd again, asking if everyone is full and what should be filled next. The crowd loudly responds with alcohol. He then introduces the talent show prizes. Third place will receive 2 boxes of soju, 5 boxes of beer, and 10 chickens. Second place gets unlimited beer, soju, makgeolli, and snacks. The strengthened team shows off their muscles, amazed at the poultry raid that must have happened to gather all the chicken breasts. The dance team also gets ready with excitement. The band team prepares too, including 2 separate band teams, one of them led by Jinho. Youngjae wraps up his announcement saying he can feel their burning determination. He introduces the grand prize, unlimited snacks, and 5 bottles of 17-year-aged X-Rentine. With that, the talent show officially begins. Next, the strengthened team took the stage for their performance. After their act, Youngjae approached one of the members, impressed by his strength. The student explained that he had added 1 kilogram to his backpack every time he felt stressed about the college scholastic ability test. When asked about the perks of joining their department, he enthusiastically replied that he loved how heavy the management textbook was. To prove it, he attempted to tear apart a 500-page Principles of Management textbook with his bare hands. Just then, Professor Kim Jae-gwon, the judge and author of the book, expressed dismay, declaring that it was his book. He pressed the buzzer, marking the student's performance as a failure. Youngjae then introduced the dance team's performance, wondering aloud if they were about to perform a couple dance. One of the girls clarified that they were actually real siblings, which made the audience laugh. Another girl jokingly noted that at retreats, most mixed-gender dances often led to trouble, and teasingly asked Jinho if that had been his experience too. Jinho, however, had never attended school trips or retreats. A girl approached Jinho and pointed out that he was the only one playing in his team. She questioned if he could really lead such a random group made up of 4 vocalists and 1 instrumentalist, noting that it seemed more like a cappella group than a band. She also commented on his limited guitar practice, which was less than 2 weeks. Jinho confidently smiled and assured her he had figured out the track. He recalled getting expert advice for his preparation. 2 weeks earlier, in a karaoke room, Jinho had approached Jaejun for help. Jinho explained that his team members only studied and didn't know music trends well, and since he missed the orientation, he wanted to make up for it by participating in the talent show. Jaejun agreed to help, but only if Jinho paid for the karaoke session. After a song, Jinho asked for feedback, claiming the song felt amazing. Jaejun dismissed it, saying not to bother with songs that didn't have at least 4 digits in the karaoke catalog. Jinho argued that every long-lasting song had a reason to survive. Jaejun reminded him that the talent show wasn't about personal preferences. Jinho seemed confused, so Jaejun told him it was because he was too focused on reset life and never experienced normal school events. Back in the present, Youngjae announced the next performers, the band team. As their performance began, the audience became emotional. Youngjae grew worried, unsure how to lift the mood afterward. The judge, with tears in his eyes, shared that the song reminded him of his father. Jinho thought to himself that Jaejun might actually be a shaman. The scene then flashed back to when Jaejun had advised Jinho to avoid playing a depressing song in a quiet setting and to stick with something exciting and trendy. Jinho admitted he didn't know the latest songs well. Jaejun told him to check the top 100 chart and choose a song so popular that even a neighbor's dog could join the chorus. He explained that a perfect performance needed visuals, popularity, and skills. Jinho had the visuals, and Jaejun would handle the popularity through song choice. Jinho asked if that meant he just needed to focus on skills. Jaejun reminded him that his team had 4 other members who could sing and do a bit of choreography. But with only 2 weeks to prepare, Jaejun questioned how Jinho would pull it off. Returning to the present, Youngjae announced the final performance. The band team called We're Number 1. The audience became highly energized, anticipating Jinho's act. Youngjae wondered if Jinho had abandoned his team members to stand out alone. As Jinho began playing guitar, he reflected on his approach. He believed skill commanded attention, popularity made the performance enjoyable, and visuals overshadowed everything else. He described the blindness of ignorance, where people ignore what's right in front of them. As the performance reached its climax, all his preparation came together perfectly. The crowd loved it. Jinho thought about the 2 weeks of planning and how the actual performance was just 4 minutes and 42 seconds long. He wanted to fully enjoy his first festival experience. Watching the performance, the CEO commented that Korean university students had become insanely talented. He noted that sometimes the smartest students were also the scariest. In such a small space, the group had done breakdancing and backflips with impressive fluidity. It looked spontaneous, but the performance was smooth and full of natural talent. Yet, among all, one person stood out the most. One of the CEO's associates suggested offering an 8, 2-profit split to recruit him, but the CEO insisted on a 9, 1 split, asserting their superior position. A girl looking at her phone in surprise exclaimed that another group had snatched it again. She turned to Gyeong and asked if this was really the time to be playing with cats. As the group continued chatting, Jinho arrived cheerfully, announcing his presence. He sat with them and mentioned that he had taken a break from school due to filming and thanked them for letting him join. Gyeong recalled how they had danced and sung together at MT, saying they'd been through a lot. He then brought up the topic of their assignment, which was to choose a company and its main product, then analyze its pros and cons from a business management perspective. Another teammate warned that using Triwiki or choosing a topic already taken by another group would lead to trouble. Most big companies had already been picked. Jinho suggested focusing on the mobile game market. His idea caught everyone off guard. He pointed out how the term mobile game instantly brought something to mind. The group responded skeptically, mentioning games with celebrity ads or ones that made headlines like Monster Go, and wondered why the others were still stuck in post-exam trauma. Jung checked on his laptop and found that the topic had surprisingly many resources. He commented on the fact that some people spend hundreds of millions on mobile games. With the topic decided, they began assigning roles. Jinho was naturally chosen to present and someone asked who would make the slides. Jinho objected, but a girl told him he didn't get to choose. Since his participation was low, he had to do the tough tasks. Jinho protested that he had attended every group meeting. Suddenly a man appeared behind Jinho, prompting him to flee. The man introduced himself as being from BT Entertainment and said they had come in person since Jinho hadn't responded to their DM. Jinho quickly replied that he wasn't interested. Later, Jinho vented to his aunt on a call, saying he was seriously stressed and couldn't even eat lunch properly due to how often those people came around. His aunt responded that their persistence meant they were desperate. She explained that every time a photo shoot of him was released, he ranked in the top 10 real-time search terms. Seoul, Korea's sales had increased, 10% for men's fashion and 4% for women's, thanks to him. Even his social media, with 0 posts, had reached 500,000 followers. She hinted at someone being behind his success. Jinho, flattered, admitted that it did make him feel awesome. His aunt said that rumors had spread about him becoming Team Jones's muse and signing with Seoul, but he had chosen to remain unsigned. That triggered the waiting agencies to jump in before it was too late. Jinho compared the situation to being poked twice and turning into a porcupine. His aunt remarked that this was the life of a quasi-celebrity. He then asked if being managed by the Seoul office would guarantee him a promotion. At that moment, the aunt ended the call and switched to a video call. She said it was time to have a deeper conversation. Jinho realized she was in a meeting with the CEO. The CEO explained that representing a brand was like being an ambassador. While an ambassador is someone famous who speaks on a brand's behalf, what they were discussing was about raising a star under their own brand. Jinho asked if being officially managed by Seoul would make him the brand's symbol. The CEO clarified that it would be exactly that. It wasn't just about casting a model, but about creating someone who embodies the brand. Just like the Venus statue isn't about the model, but about Venus itself. A model enhances a brand, but a nurtured star becomes one with it. In that case, everything, from what the person eats and wears to their past and future behaviors, even the tiniest mistake, becomes a risk to Seoul. Jinho observed that there were too many risks in nurturing someone directly. The CEO agreed, stating that he had to answer to countless investors. He shared an example from the 2010s when a brand favored by a serial killer took major damage. He emphasized that he wasn't doubting Jinho's character, but if there had been a little less to protect, he would have welcomed him gladly. Jinho appreciated the honesty and said he enjoyed how even a passing joke turned into a meaningful conversation. His aunt interrupted, saying it wasn't a joke. She suggested Jinho consider dropping out and getting formally scouted this time. Who knew? If he joined Seoul and gradually built his foundation, it might work. Jinho rejected the idea, saying that he was just a 20-year-old and didn't want to drop out. His aunt asked about his plans. He replied that he planned to continue his freelance lifestyle and only do the work he truly enjoyed. Later, Jinho was seen sitting in a cafe. A lady handed him hibiscus tea, and he thanked her. He wondered if the tea was made from dried flower petals. His thoughts drifted back to the CEO's words, that Jinho's popularity was like a flower that doesn't return once it wilts. Jinho thought that if that day ever came, the other 98 lives would still be waiting for him. 3 days passed. A girl asked Jinho if they should make the script for him since he seemed busy. Jinho assured her he had memorized every detail of the materials he had sent. The girl remarked that it was both unlucky and reassuring. She also noted that entertainment agencies hadn't been around lately. Jinho agreed and wondered silently if the agencies had tried every possible route and given up. The truth was that an anti-fan had filed a complaint against him. Jinho, now finally at peace, expressed his joy at being able to eat without interruptions. He suggested celebrating with galbi. Just then, someone called out to him, joking about him skipping the company dinner and calling it very MZ of him. As they started to run, Jinho yelled for them to take him along, saying he wanted galbi too. Suddenly, someone from behind stopped him and asked if he had a moment. They apologized and explained they were in a hurry but needed to speak with him. Jinho, now frustrated, asked why he couldn't even eat in peace. It was Seola and a man with her. Seeing Seola, Jinho remembered that she was the person who sang so well in the waiting room back then. Seola smiled and pointed out that they were already familiar with each other.